Hello, world. This is Hello Chaos, the podcast about the ups and downs, ins and outs, highlights, and low points of entrepreneurship. I am your co-host, Jennifer Oladipo, aka Jeno.
And I am Jennifer Sutton, aka JJ, for those, because, it's the two Jens. Right. And Ebony, as you were like, I don't know you really as JJ. I only know you as Jennifer. Trying to get, but today we have Ebony Sullivan as our guest. She is the COO of Cassie Electric, and I'm excited to have her on our show today. I'm just going to give a little setup of Ebony, because we can take this conversation in so many ways. Because Ebony, I've known each other for a long time. I've kind of watched her journey and her career of working for small businesses, working for the chamber, and then she helped a lot of small businesses as her purview, and then she has taken on her mom's business of in a trade business of electricians. Electrical contractors. And it's fascinating to hear, because I want to touch on that of the skills trade of the tendency of whoever starts that, whether you're an electrician or a bricklayer or, a woods craftsman or roofer or whatever, that business dies when that person goes away. And, one of the things because I thought, what is she doing? When you left and started that, and you were like, my mom is she's not going to live forever. And this is a great business. She has she's the only master electrician in the state of South Carolina. Mm-hmm. But you were like, this is a chance to create generational growth and generational mobility. And I just, that really opened my eyes around, whoa, that's a concern. And the fact that you're doing something about it. So welcome, Ebony.
Welcome to the chaos.
They call me Spirit Fingers. So hi.
So Ebony, from your tell us a little bit more. Why did you want to jump into going into Cassie? I mean, obviously more than just your mom, but what's the entrepreneurial spirit that you had to do to take that? And where do you see? Where's your viewpoint and your perspective of where's Cassie going?
Oh, Cassie's going great places. My mom was turning 60 years old, and we were having conversations about what are you going to do when you're ready to retire? And I think like most trades and most entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, they don't think that far. They're thinking more about right now. And that's what she was thinking about, was the moment. And so when we started having conversations about retirement, it was evident there was no plan. And I, like you said, was working for the Chamber of Commerce and had seen so frequently how businesses just disappear when the owner disappears or retires or falls ill. So we started having those conversations, and I quickly knew that she was interested in maintaining this business in our family, but really just had no strategy and really no resources at the moment on how to do that. And also she wasn't interested in doing it herself. She never admitted that. She's just like, yeah, let's do it. And you can do that, right?
Because you jumped in and you were like, whoa, what have I gotten myself into?
Because we were really a hobby business. When I came into this business, it was my mom, one van, one guy, that's it, right? And it was just a hobby. We made money, and it was a lifestyle business for our family. She could pay for vacations for us. She could take care of her grandchildren. She lived a very nice lifestyle. Yeah. However, she was still registered as a solopreneur. We did not have any financial information. We didn't know if we were scalable. We had no health insurance, nothing. It was just literally a day-by-day business. And so
How long was the business when you came along and you started looking at
20 years, at least 20 years, my mom had been doing this. I mean, for 20 years, she had made a very good reputation for herself, but everything was referral based. There was no website. There was no social media. Everything was directly tied to her. Even the cards had her cell phone number on them, right? So like the first year was unmangling the mess, and it was really creating an identity for my mother so she could have herself back.
Mhm.
Then creating a brand for Cassie Electric where it could stand on its own. And so we spent that first year just creating identities for the business and as well as for my mother. And since that time, we've grown the business 3 times. So when we started, we were 200,000 revenue. We hit 1.2 million this year in sales. So we've grown the business tremendously. And we see on the horizon that we'll be a multi-million-dollar company. We'll be in several states. And we'll also be, working with the government across, hopefully, the United States and maybe even Puerto Rico.
That is fantastic. And I'm just going to take a pause. We need to celebrate your over $1 million revenue win.
That's so cool.
Because and Ebony, I don't know if you know these stats, but when you look at, this is from the U.S. Consensus Bureau, where they said 49% of all businesses are woman owned.
Mm-hmm.
And, so you look at, that's 13 million businesses in the United States of woman-owned businesses. Only 2% of those are over $1 million in sales.
Wow. No,
so the fact that you have hit that milestone, you need to celebrate.
Man,
that is fantastic.
You're a different business when you get to $1 million.
That's right. You are. Yeah.
In what ways? In what ways? A lot of people think about scaling, but what does that actually mean?
Oh, people, resources, pressure, all those things. To get to $1 million, you've got to scale up your team. We couldn't get $1 million with just one person in a van. So along the way, you're adding people, you're adding assets, but you're also adding expenses. So you have to be very good at managing that financially. You also have to have cash. Like cash is the biggest challenge of small businesses, is how do we get resources to grow, right? Because in order the old saying, to make money, you got to spend money, is very true, right? In our business, especially, you're front loading a lot of projects. So you're floating somebody else's deal until you get paid again. And so to be able to have money to do that is usually the challenge that most minority and small businesses face, is where do we get the capital to support your project until I get a check?
Right.
And what were the resources that you were able to take advantage of the most quickly to help you have that?
We needed to get a line of credit. So we had to work very diligently with our accountant and our tax accountant and a banker to make sure that we were following that track to be able to be eligible to receive a line of credit.
Let's talk about that, Ebony, because I know the process and the frustration you went through for that.
Yeah.
And it's good for everybody else to know as you're going, you have to make your pitch, right? So you went through the Minority Business Accelerator, your year one, right? You took over your mom, like COO of your mom's business. You left the chamber in December? Yes. January, you're like, oh crap, I'm Cassie Electric now. And you went into the Minority Business Accelerator in 2020, January of 2020. COVID. But then, and I know some of the struggles you went through to kind of get that structure, because you started opening up like your mom's books, the closet, and you were like, this is insane.
Like
literal closet, just the going from a solopreneur and putting all the framework, to build it for scalability. It's just a whole different mindset and different tools, right?
Yes.
An accelerator helps you with that.
It does.
So first, what was the biggest takeaway from that program?
Wow. The biggest takeaway from that program was write it down. I think that a lot of times we have all these thoughts in our mind and we don't really take the time to write it down and then dig deep in it. So it was, you write a strategic growth plan, but it really forced you to be very thoughtful in that, where you couldn't just say, I want to grow to $1 million. It was like, well, how and who and what and where and what are you going to need and how are you going to market it? And so it forced,
and how much is going to cost you to get there? Yeah.
Single detail, it forced you to write down. And so when you started to write it down, it made you really roadmap it. It was like a GPS. If I turn right, then I turn left, then I turn right. And so when I did that, it was easier for me to navigate what I needed to do in order to set us up for scalability, because I saw instantly where the holes were, right? Like, oh, well, we don't have that. I don't know what this is. And oh, snap, how are we going to get that?
That's right.
And so it was easier for me to see. So the Minority Business Accelerator program for me was the intentionality behind working on all the details of what that growth was going to look like.
Right. And then what was it, last year that you were going, I need cash flow. Like, I'm struggling. How can I go after this contract? They're not going to pay me for 120 days.
Right.
So how do I scale the business that way? And you were like, I'm trying to get an SBA loan and people won't either return my calls or I can't even. So talk about that process. And I know you also reached out for another resource.
Yeah.
That was unique. I'd never heard of something like that you utilized to help you prepare for those meetings to get you that SBA loan.
We actually never got the SBA loan.
Oh, you got the line of credit.
We got the line of credit because
yeah.
the SBA loan was like crazy. I mean, like the paperwork that you have to go through, the process that you go through, like, yeah, it was a lot to do that. So we decided to take the track of the line of credit. And so I signed up for another program. It was called Be Peace. It was their first year that they were doing it in the United States. They typically help women businesses across Mexico and Argentina and third world countries to help them to become economically free. And so they had just launched the program. I found out about it through some kind of random newsletter I was receiving, and I just poked around in it. You got to be curious when you're right. I mean, I'm just saying, everything is important when you're learning. So you're just reading and poking and where's this and where's it take you? And it took me to this program that essentially set you up with what they call scalanthropists. And scalanthropists were professional people who had either already owned businesses or they were very high up in their organization. And my scalanthropist was a man who ran a $1 billion organization. And so my number one project that I wanted to focus on was, how do we get money? That was the only thing that was important to me, because in my mind, money solved all the rest of the problems. Yes, we needed marketing. Yes, we needed these other things. But if I didn't have cash, I couldn't do those things.
Right.
So I focused solely on how do we get the money to do all the things that we need to do. And so the scalanthropist, because his business is $1 billion investments, he buys businesses like mine. So he helped me to see, like, well, this is what I would want to see. And this is what I would want you to pitch to me. And so he helped me to create a pitch for the bank. We took all my financials, we put it all together in this really great presentation. He helped me to understand the lingo and the terminology that the bankers were going to use. And then he encouraged me to pitch it to people that I knew. So I called up my friends from the chamber, Carlo White, Rich Hagan, even Calvin Calhoun, who works for Truist Bank. I was like, hey, can I pitch this to you? Tell me where the holes are, or if you would lend me money. And they all were like, this is solid. So we took it to the bank and we pitched it, and they gave us our first line of credit that year for $100,000.
Very good. And you just pitched it to one bank, right?
I pitched it actually to 3 different banks.
Okay.
So then for me, it was shopping. I pitched $100,000, but somebody told me it was going to give me 50. And I was like, yeah, no, thank you. Because I knew what we needed. I knew what we needed. I know that on paper, it didn't look like we were a small business. I mean, at the time we were just a $500,000 company, and I was asking for $100,000. Usually they only give you what's in your accounts receivables. And I might've had $30,000 or $40,000, but I knew that wasn't enough. I knew that even with 30 or 40, sure, we could have done something, but it wouldn't have launched us to the $1 million that we were wanting to get to for the next year without that money.
Right. And when that was really smart, the whole process of like getting input from folks who knew what were, knew it sounded like a good business opportunity. And did you get feedback? What kind of feedback did you get? It's in terms of like what you needed to change perhaps, or was your pitch just totally solid?
No. So what I first got was, Ebony, be careful and don't outgrow your business. So I
Hmm.
was just like, what does that even
What does
mean?
that mean?
What does that mean? And so I scheduled some time with my tax accountant and my CPA. We did a Zoom. And basically, what that meant was you can grow so fast that you can't keep up with the pace of the growth. And
Yeah.
eventually, you will go under because you
Right.
just can't pay the payables. You can't keep up with the payroll. You just have too many eyes in the fire, you know? And so I understood that. But I also know, being an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs will know this, it's all about risk,
Yeah.
right? All about risk. That if I was too conservative, the way my banker, my CPA, and my accountant, they're trained to be risk averse, right?
Right.
Like, for them, they're going to tell me, don't do that, or
Right.
have to take that into consideration. That I appreciated them giving me the warning signs to look for, so that I didn't outgrow the business, but I couldn't take it as a don't go any further. I had
Right.
to take it as a grain of salt on this piece of bland chicken
Right.
that I'm trying to really get to be juicy,
Right.
and
Well, it's
so
just they gave you information in order to be informed to make your decisions, but
absolutely.
you didn't they didn't dictate to you, or
They
you
tried.
didn't take it as a dictation. Yeah.
They tried. They
Yeah.
did. I mean, they really did. Even down to my banker, he was like, I really don't think 100 grand is what you need. I really think you need this, but nobody should know your business more than you know your
That's
business.
right.
And for him, he knew my business only through transactions, right? So he only knew the transactional side of the business. My CPA only knows my business through the transaction, but they don't really know, like, what's going on here, what's happening, what
Right.
I do, right? I know I'm here, I feel it, I see it. And yes, I'm taking all this stuff into consideration that you're telling me, because you're catching my blind spots. But then, as a business owner, you need to be able to sit down, go back to your growth plan, and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, how does all of this work? How does all of this fit together? What can I do? What's too aggressive? What's comfortable enough for me to live with, that if this doesn't work out the way that I want it to, am I going to be okay with that?
Right. Your plan B.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And plan A, was that based on, I mean, what were the goal, it seems like you had it pretty clear. So what were the goalposts? Was there like a revenue goal at the end? Was it a size goal? Was it a regional coverage goal? What were the things that you were saying, okay, no, I have to do it this way because these are those goals I have?
All of the above. We were wanting to, like I said, my mother started this business as a hobby business. So the majority of our customers at the time were residential. We did 100% residential business. I knew that residential business was a great lucrative weekly churn for us. So it's a hit it and quit it. I'm there, I'm paid. I also knew that in order for me to go into commercial, like Jen said, it's 120 days, 90 days,
That's right.
days, 30 days, depending on the contractors. So I knew I couldn't do 190 days. I knew that anybody who was offering a contract that was going to take that long, I couldn't do that. I knew I couldn't do 90 days. I knew 90 days would take too long. So I didn't chase that. So I was very strategic on the opportunities that I was looking for based off of when they were going to pay me, right? And I knew that we needed to get into commercial work because commercial works were larger contract sizes.
Right.
Might be in a house, the most I could make 10, 20, maybe even $30,000 on a brand new construction, where in commercial I can make 50, 100, 500,000 just being on a job for 6 months. So, I knew that this had to be a integral part in strategically growing the business, was to diversify. I needed to be able to get my feet in a new market, a new industry. So that was commercial. Then I also knew that commercial was going to take a little longer to pay me. So I ramped up my service side as well. That I had enough cash to be able to float us while we were waiting on this check to come in. And when that check came in, I used it to pay down my line of credit because I had to lean on the line of credit to scale us up. So it was just this pay one person, pay off
Yeah. It was just like moving money around.
yeah, it was just moving money around just to keep us running. And so that was part of it. And we knew that getting into a new industry also meant we were going to have to go into a new market. We left out of Greenville. We went an hour and a half away, right, to our first big project. So all of those things, yes, were a part of the strategy. Is how do we advance? We need to move. We need to diversify.
Mhm.
Make sure we scale up on the things that's churning cash quickly, so it could help support all of this new growth.
So,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, so also to actually execute all the growth, you went from one person to how many people?
Now we have 15 employees.
Okay,
so
that's
we
a
went
lot
from
of growth very fast.
yes, girl. You can't see the praise, girl. They there now.
and describe the people on your team.
Yeah. So my mom is a master electrician.
Yeah.
My husband is a journeyman electrician, so he works with us as well. My daughter is our marketing manager.
Yeah.
My son is our project manager. And then, of course, we have other non-family members that work for us. But our core team, again, very intentional, because this is a family business and we're trying to create generational wealth. It was very important for me to express upon my family that they go away to college, yes, and have all their fun, but you come back and you provide support to the engine that fed this, right? So my daughter went away to school and she tried her hand in the thing that she wanted to do. And when she didn't want to do that, she came back here and she gives us her gifts and talents through our marketing and our brand ambassadorship. And then my son went to Clemson. He also graduated from Christ Church. So he made a really great network, a really good group of kids that went to Clemson also and that are still local. And he decided his sophomore year, he didn't want to go back. So I said, well, hey, come to the business, support the business. Because he was 13 working with my mom in the electrical field and had been doing so since then, it was a very easy transition for him to come into the business and project manage because he understood electrical. Yeah. And then I got two younger kids and they work in the summer in the field as well, out in the trade. I think it's just most important that everyone learns this trade in our family.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
And Ebony, now you're 3 years into the business.
Yes.
You're the 3-year milestone.
There
so what's next? Like, where is the biggest barrier? Like, what is in your way to achieve that next 1 million to get you to the 2 million mark?
We're going for 3 this year, Jen.
Oh, good.
We're keeping the trend. We're doubles, right?
Very good.
3 this year is our big goal. And it is a big goal. And doubling your revenue is not easy. So I don't want to.
It is not.
Like, oh, we've done that several times and we're going to just keep doing it. But it is hard and it requires a lot of discipline. And right now, our biggest barrier is finding all of the right tools to help us work together. When it was just me and one other person in the office, we could share information back and forth through email or text or whatever. And now that we've got a lot of people who need to know the same information, how do we share that? What's the right platform for us to use? What's the right software to purchase to make sure that we're project managing and sales pipeline and all the things? Is it one tool? Is it 3 tools? We don't really know. So we're still trying to figure out how to streamline processes and keep things in a centralized place where we can all share information. So that's one barrier. The next barrier is still money. Money is always the challenge. We did get an increase on our line of credit, which has helped us. We've changed banks since then. So we were you have to shop. I like them. I appreciated the first bank for their 100K, but as we grew, we needed more money. Who's going to give that to us? And so we went with another bank who was able to give us more resources financially. And then people management, like having people who really want to grind it out. I mean, we're still a baby, even though we're $1 million company. People don't understand that's still infancy in a small business. So infancy requires people who are still wanting to work like you got an infant.
Right. That's right.
They want to be up late. They want to.
That's right. It's the brain sweat. It's the looking beyond of the job description. You and I have talked about that. Of like the frustration of people are like, well, that's not really my role. And it's like,
You're in a small business. I mean, nobody has a role here.
Right. I mean, it's like if I'm cleaning toilets, you
can't. There's also the issue of and we talked a little bit about this before the call, that the role, I mean, if the shape and nature of the business changes, then the shape and nature of somebody's role changes.
Right.
And so, everybody who gets you started isn't necessarily the person to get you to the next phase. So how are you, first of all, making those assessments, and okay, who is in the right spot for the future and who isn't right now?
That's such a great question. Well, I didn't know at first how I was going to be able to figure that out. But what I did was I started putting analytics together. So I like facts. I don't like to live in emotions. And so in order to stop the emotional conversations, we needed facts. So we started looking at things very analytically instead of like, well, what do you think? And how do you feel? It was more like, well, how many times did the phone ring? And how many times did we send out an estimate? And so when we started looking at the facts, the real data, that was where we realized where the gaps were again. So I go back to write it down. It down so that you can see, where are we? Are we doing these things? And if we aren't, why aren't we doing these things? And what's the barrier from keeping us from doing that? And so I had to use this new HR lens of not accusing people of not doing their job, but just making sure that, one, did we provide them with the support that they needed to be successful in that role? Did the role change? What were you doing? And when we started making those assessments, it became very evident that, based off of facts, that people weren't in the right seats.
And did you start with some? So obviously you're measuring what people are doing. Did you start with, okay, what are the goals? Like, if you're coming with facts, that you already have some metrics that you work, because it sounds like you're talking about having conversations with people and really actually looking at numbers with your staff, right?
Absolutely, yes. We started. So everything for me is about going back to our vision, our mission, and our big goals, right? We start our big staff meetings with reminding everybody of that. So when we came out of the MBA program, those were things that were clear, that we had to identify. What is your mission? What is your vision? And what is your big goal for the company? And so, because I use those as guiding posts always within the company, we start our meetings with those, right? We start that out the gate, like, this is where we're going, guys.
Right.
Everybody already knew where we were going. Now, if we weren't there, of course, we didn't know how we were going to get there all the time, but we knew that's where we were going. And so there were going to be roadblocks and detours and things that stalled us from getting there as quickly as maybe we wanted to, but everybody that joined this company knew out the gate what the mission, the vision, and the big goal.
What do you think was when you state all that, and then they still come and go, do they come to you and go, I don't think this is a fit? Or are you bringing up those conversations to say, look, where's the disconnect?
Yeah, I see the performance is not there. Like our service side of the business, for an example, is dependent upon the phone ringing, And so my job, and to work with our marketing manager, is to figure out how to get the phone ringing. Well, if the phone is ringing and your job is to answer it, but we're not getting any business, there's a problem. Right? Like, bingo!
There's no closing.
So now we see that there's a problem there. And now we're like, okay, let's talk about this. What's happening? And so my first introduction to the conversation isn't like, the phone rang 20 times and you didn't answer. It's more like, hey, how's everything going? Right? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Is there anything you want to share? And if everybody is rosy, then we're like, okay, well, the phone rang 20 times and you didn't answer it. So what's stopping us from doing that? Then it's, oh, well, I don't have a headset. When I walk to the kitchen and the phone rings, I miss it. Well, that's an easy fix. We can get you a headset. So just fact finding is what I feel like I spend most of my time doing with the team, to ensure that we got the right people in the right seat, and that you have the right tools and resources you need to be successful in your job.
That's right.
And how do you, that's really interesting that you start with, okay, I want to know how you are seeing the company and the role right now. Is that something that you just naturally came to, or was that something you learned to do for some reason?
Well, I just feel like we get a better response from people when we first give them the affirmation. And I see as just people, like, I get it. This is my job, it's my family, right? So I have a different level of investment in this company than anybody else, right? And so just because I go hard and I work late and everybody don't feel the same way. So I just want to always check in with you. How are you? Right? Like, let's start there first, right?
Yeah, and I guess you need to know, like, how's this conversation going to go? So just
figure this whole thing out first. I was doing a phone-a-thon yesterday. I sit on the board for the YMCA, and we were doing a phone-a-thon yesterday, and it brought me back to being on the phone for my business, because my first introduction to the person was like, let me thank you first for your donation, you know? And so I think before I made the ask, it was, let me first acknowledge you and before I talk about myself and what my needs are, right? And that's how I feel like I run our business. Is I want the people who work here to feel like my family, you know, because we are a family business, and I don't ever want it to be just all business, never checking in with you. I want to know how you're doing, because it could be we're doing everything right and you just got some personal stuff going on, you know?
Right.
And so now at least I'm gut checking that the business is doing, checking our boxes. And this is not process failure or failure to support you or failure on the business's side to be able to give you what you need to be successful. This is personal. You just need me to shut my computer and love on you a little bit. And let's just have a conversation about how we can overcome whatever personal challenges you have. But if it is not that, then now you've given me the opportunity to maybe refine some process. You know, some things I used to work on, I don't touch anymore. Maybe that process is broken now, you know?
Right.
And so let's check in and just make sure that we can figure it out, you know?
So you know how to say whether the people who are in their roles are meeting the needs of the company because you got your data. How do you then decide, okay, who are the people who are going to take us to the next level? What are you looking at? What are you looking for?
That grit, you know, it's just something, like I said, you know.
Gumption.
And that's the word. We learned that yesterday.
That's right.
That's a good old word.
It's a good word.
It is. And that's just not something that you can explain. You know, it's just something that a person shows you. And they're not that they're the first person at work or the one that works the latest, the one that raises their hands in the meeting and says, hey, what about this? Or, ooh, I was watching a cartoon last night and I thought about this.
Right.
Or in this commercial, we should do it. You know, like people who show up and you feel their energy is really devoted to wanting to make sure that this business stays successful. And those are the people that you want to give a little more to, give them a little bit of more autonomy and authority, you know, let them be free in them thinking about how they see us. One of our office managers, she said, I seen this building. We need to go ride by it. And I said, okay. So we all and got in the car and drove to see this building that is beautiful. It's like 20,000 square feet. It's way bigger than I imagined that our next move would be. But the thought that she saw us there, you know, to see herself coming into this building and being there, like that is for me how I know this is the right person to help us grow to this next level. Will she be with us forever? I don't know. But in this moment, in this growth that we're in, she sees the vision, she's bought into it, and those are the kind of people that, you know, will go with you to the next level.
What does that feel like? Because I mean, it's such a personal family thing. What does it feel like when there's someone who is not a member of your family, you know, taking that kind of ownership? And it's more than ownership. It's like pride and optimism.
It feels so good. Like it gives me goosebumps. It makes me really proud to say that, like, because there's always bad days. Trust me. And there's people there that ain't that, right? So when
you're like exit left, right?
When you get this kind of energy around you, it just reinforces that you're doing the right thing, you know, because sitting in the seat, Jen, you know, like you don't get a lot of people to say, high five, you're doing a good job. You know, people like this don't work and I need a new computer and it's all that kind of stuff. And you feel like you're problem solving every single day.
Every
And
minute. Yep.
have somebody to just be like, I love this place. This is so awesome. I
Yep.
want to be here for the long haul. That feels pretty amazing.
And hey, Ebony, I was going to also on the flip side, the challenges of you have your family, and I'm, the fact that you have approached it that way and kind of talked to your kids and your family of this is a family business and there's a place and a purpose for them to kind of carry that on. Because I know that doesn't always happen. A lot of businesses are just kind of like handed down, or it's the expected. And then, or you got the, because I've worked for family businesses where it's like, oh, the son's taken over. It's not the same. Or, oh, great, their kids are now here. Oh, they're now my manager or whatever. Are you experiencing with the explosion of your growth and the kids coming on and taking on more responsibilities? What is that like? And how are they evolving with you in this to just, talk about that.
There's a roller coaster of emotions in a family business. And, to have non-family members in the business see you grow, I'm sure there's background conversations I'm probably not privy to. But the ones that I am aware of, the biggest challenge is that my children, for an example, are still pretty young, 21 and 25. And so my son, who's 21, I try to make sure that I keep the job as flexible for them as possible. So in other words, they're young professionals. And it's the same thing that we always talk about. Make it flexible, make it fun, make them want to be engaged, because I bring them into the management meetings, like they're decision makers in their area. You have the authority to be able to do this, not because they're my kids, but because they're qualified to do it.
Right.
Like they've shown that they can, proven that they are knowledgeable. My son has won us projects in his estimating. He's won money for the company and managing projects well. And so because of those things, I think he's earned his stripes. But I also make sure that they go through leadership training. Real big on leadership and professional development. I feel like it's important that even though you may be a master at business, that does not mean that you're a master at managing people.
Right.
So you need to take some classes if you're going to be managing people, right? We don't want you to just be out here faking it,
That's what makes the difference with the family business when the kids come in and they get respected. Like, does it feel like nepotism or not? Is it their sense of entitlement? And it's like, because they have this name, they have this role? Or like you said, are they
earning
required to earn it? And then do they have a high level of expectation set upon them to grow in the role?
Absolutely. And all, right? Like all of those things. I've given them my 15-year plan. So they already exited and left by the time I turn 60.
That's right.
So a little bit of time to figure things out. But in the meantime, I want them to still be engaged. And so I don't put them in roles that's going to delay our business. Like their roles are important. Yes, marketing is important. But my daughter can do that from California, from the beach. If she wants to travel, she wants to do those things. She's not holding anybody up here from their job. If she decides to pack up and go backpack across Europe and whatever, she's still 25. Like I want her to still experience her life.
Right.
But if she has the opportunity to earn money and contribute to this business, why not? Right.
Right.
And with my son, he's 21. You want to go to spring break and on the beach with your friends? Fine. But you need to check in on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the morning. I need some updates on this. And he does that. He has no problem with it because he goes to spend the rest of his afternoon on the beach, And so his role also, it's not in a position where it impacts anybody else's job. And so putting your children in the business is important, but also making sure you put them in the right position. You don't want to be managing a team and they're 21 and they still want to go to the beach.
Yeah.
So that's nepotism in my mind, is when you put your family or friends or children in roles that they're clearly not competent for or don't even really have the desire to be in.
That's right.
force them to do the work and they don't really do it. And then everybody else suffers from that.
Right.
Well, that's like all employees.
That's everybody.
Good point.
Yeah. You're holding them accountable no different than anybody else. And I think that's the important part.
Jennifer,
Yeah, they still they have KPIs, they still have to report in, they still have to do a timesheet, so like it's still just like everyone else. They don't get any favoritism and impressed upon them. It is what it is. This is your job and this is what is expected of you, but I raised them that way also.
That's
so
right.
It's easy transition for them to come and work for me because I didn't treat them any different at home. Like, you take the garbage out, you need to clean your bathroom, your room and your bed needs to be made up every day, right? Like, so that I already raised them with those expectations. And so coming into the business, they already know, like, mom is not, she ain't going to show me no favoritism.
That's right. And you're also working with your husband.
I do. Now that's a different topic.
That's what I was like, oh, yeah. Oh.
We have to spend time making sure we're intentional about not talking about work.
That's why I was like, you've got to shut it off. I know Jeno was asking me, like, have my kids been involved in ours?
Or anyone expressed any interest?
No one's expressed interest. Except for maybe Eloise or Creed, the younger ones, the middle school, like, well, maybe I'll come work for you one day. And I'm like, only if you bring it. Like, you gotta be, Callaway has done projects for us. Some animations and some software app building and some web work, but that he needed to get the discipline at school, before he could come in to work within the caliber of our team. It just wouldn't have been the right fit. But to give him projects that we knew he could kind of stretch his legs, be successful, it was completely in his wheelhouse to do, and I could play oversight on that. We let him in. Sophie, she was I don't want to do anything that my mom does, so that wasn't even I've tried to go because she has a business mindset. Her work ethic is unbelievable. It's a lot like mine. I've tried to bring her in. She's like, no, I see how hard you work and I don't want to work. I don't mind working hard. I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
So,
well, Ebony, it is time to come to a close. I feel like we could talk for
talk for hours. So I was like, oh, Ebony, we could get into there's a lot of things we could get into because we fight barriers that she and I both have faced as being a female founder.
Yeah.
Specifically for you, a female Black founder, that you have, there are a lot of chat. So we might have to have you back on and carry those conversations because those are, those gender biases and race biases are real. And I love how you've addressed those. I mean, I my mouth sometimes goes open of like, you did that? Oh my gosh, if I could have just been a fly on the wall.
We definitely need a part 2.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, Ebony, where can people find out more about you and Cassie Electric?
Yeah, so I'm all over social media, Ebony Sullivan on Facebook, Ebony Sullivan on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. Our company website is www.cassieelectric.com, and that's CASSY Electric. We are also all over social media, Cassie Electric, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, even. We have
That's right.
Post.
Because your kids are fun when they're
even my niece, she dresses up in Cassie Electric, and that's the secret, really. It's just to get them in, just get them in, let them have fun, just so that they know this is your family business too, even when they're little kids and they may not do everything you do, but just the thought that they come into the office and they see you, all of that, it means a lot to them in the long term, and they'll come back, they'll find their way back.
Excellent.
That's right.
And more about us, Jennifer?
So you can check out this. So we're live today, but what we'll do is this will be uploaded into our podcast platform. So you can download it to Spotify, Apple, look for us. It's Hello Chaos Podcast, or you can we'll be launching it through our platforms over the weekend at orangewhip.com. And that is www.orangewip.com. And that WIP is for work in progress, right? Because we're all a work in progress.
Yes, we are.
So come and subscribe. Also, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, please go to the website. Again, orangewhip.com. Go to the Hello Chaos page. There's a form to fill out if you'd like to be a guest. If there's topics that you want us to cover, whether it's in the podcast or in our future editions of the online magazine, there's also a form there of if there's topics that we should be covering in your market. So please join, subscribe, comment. Love it.
Well, thank you so much, Ebony. This has been great.
Thank you.
Bye, girl.
Much.
We'll
Bye.
see you. Did our music go?